Welcome, friend. I'm TK, your tour guide to the past, and you are listening to For the Love of History, the podcast where we talk about world history, women's history, and weird history. Welcome to episode 141. Thank you so much for joining me today for an Empress Baddie episode. This is like our OG bread and butter before we turned into randomly a hell podcast. Today we're going back to our roots, back to where we started with an Empress Baddie episode. And the baddie that we have today may be in the top 5 baddiest of baddies that we have ever covered on this podcast. But before we dive into the badassery, let us have a little bit of housekeeping. First on the docket, the For the Love of History BFFs meet up in Boise, Idaho and San Francisco, California. There is a form linked below in the show notes to sign up. It's the last week you can sign up. The cutoff will be on September 5th is the last day that you can sign up for the meet and greet in Boise, Idaho on the 14th and San Francisco on the 28th. Yes, the 28th. So if you'd like to join us for a little meet and greet, you can fill out the form below and we can have some fun. It's going to be great. It's going to be so fun. Second order of business, if you haven't already, leave us a rating. And by us, I mean me and Ted, because we're the only ones here. A rating or a review or both. We are trying to hit a goal of 200 ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts. They mean so much. Writing a rating/review is one of the best free 99 ways that you can support the podcast, and that we love supporting the podcast in free 99 ways. We love supporting people in free 99 ways. So if you haven't done that already, please consider doing that. Not now, but after the episode. Third and final order of business is the limited edition TED t-shirts are gone today. If you're listening to this episode on the day that it comes out, done. They're gone. They'll be gone forever. So you can head on over there and grab one if you would like to. Information is in the show notes. And with that, I do believe housekeeping is done. So it is now time for us to hop into our time machine and go to the 3rd century, where Rome was in its flop era and our Empress Baddie was riding horseback, hunting apex predators, and in her era of conquering and defeating her enemies and reclaiming her birthrights. So grab yourself a snack, get a little beverage, get stuck into whatever housework you're doing or your commute home, and let's get to it. You are a Roman soldier. You've been marching in the desert in full sweaty gear for gods know how long. Off in the distance, you see a glint of purple. You must be hallucinating because only the emperor is allowed to wear full purple. You think to yourself, my brain has finally turned to mush in this desert heat. But the figure draws closer, and you can hear the thundering of hooves, and a cloud of dust is beginning to rise over this mysterious purple-clad figure. What man would dare wear the emperor's color and attack the emperor's men? You draw to arms, and when the distance between you and the purple imposter is closed, you see it's not a man, but a woman, with a face carved from stone and a look that makes you wish for Hades. Realization hits you as soon as the blade does. This is the warrior queen, Zenobia. Born around 240 CE, Zenobia's life was set to be that of a regular noble girl, brought up in the Roman Empire. Marry a great man, make great babies, and by great I mean boys, but the world had other plans for her. She was not born in just any territory of Rome, but the pearl of the desert, Palmyra. While we're not exactly sure of her birth location and lineage, we do know that she was highfalutin enough to receive an incredible education and access to things most girls could only dream of. When it comes to her ancestors, there's writing etched on a great colonnade that says she's the daughter of a Greek man named Julius Aurelius Zenobius, and another source says that she's not Greek at all, but Arab, and Zenobia herself believed that she was a direct descendant of Cleopatra, a belief that would end up foreshadowing the trajectory of her entire life. Whatever her lineage was, it was good enough to marry a king, and around 258, she was wed to the king of Palmyra, Septimius Odaenathus. Septimius? Yeah. I know. And by all accounts, they had a great marriage, and Odaenathus, I got it. Whoa, Odaenathus seemed to respect his wife enough that he took her into battle with him. And don't worry, dear one, we will talk about that more in a moment. The kingdom they ruled over was called the Pearl of the Desert. Situated between the Roman Empire and the empires of the Near East, Palmyra was the most important economic and strategic jewel in Rome's crown. Trade via the Silk Road came through Palmyra, which made it one of the most multicultural and beautiful cities in the world. Imagine an open-air market with the sounds of countless languages, spices from every corner, Chinese silks, jade, gold, cinnamon. I know I already said spices, but cinnamon is my favorite spice in the whole entire world. I put it in my coffee every single day and I love it so much. It makes life better. And we have talked about the history of cinnamon and colonization, which is not good. But at this time, it was fine. The cinnamon trade was not terrible like it would become 1,000 years later, but I digress. In the 1st century, the Pearl of the Desert had been absorbed into the giant amoeba that was the ever-expanding Roman Empire. Emperor Tiberius rocked up into the city and was like, hey, we want your trade stuff and your cinnamon. Give it to us. And the king of Palmyra at the time was like, oh, I can't, there's nothing I can really do. Rome is like super powerful right now. Cool beans. And zimzalabim, they became a Roman state. And they paid tribute and they paid their taxes and all the other usual Roman shenanigans. But in the 3rd century, all of that changed. Because Rome was having a bad time. Rome was in its flop era, hardcore. They were flopping harder than Katy Perry on her 3rd attempt at a comeback, okay? It was not good. Not a good time at all. For Rome, the 3rd century was like a few decades of hot garbage on a marble pillar, and it was more shitty than the communal sponge used in the Roman group toilets. Did you know that was a thing? Of course you did, because you listened to that toilet episode. Anyways, the great Roman Empire, who brought us the likes of Julius Caesar Salad, Caligula Littleboots, and many other leaders who I don't care to mention because I don't have good nicknames for them. But in the 3rd century, Rome was having a really hard time keeping any emperors in power. They were being assassinated, they were dying of plagues, and other 3rd century shenanigans. In addition to that, the universe really gave the Roman Empire a big cosmic middle finger with a 1-2 punch of the pressures of invasion from various regions like the Goths and the Persians and other people. They also were having a civil war. Like I said, there were some plagues going on, and there was also a ton of economic depression. They were going through it, and one particularly annoying thorn in their side that was quickly turning into a gaping wound were the pesky Persians that I mentioned. They had been fighting the Persians forever. And things came to a head when the Roman Emperor Valerian of House Targaryen, just kidding, but he's not of House Targaryen. However, his name really is Valerian, and I can't stop thinking about that. But that's his new nickname now, add it to the list of other Roman emperors that have weird nicknames on this podcast. So Valerian of House Targaryen was captured by the Persian Sahar, which means king of kings. It's the Persian name for the king. And this king's name was Shapur. And Valerian of House Targaryen suffered a fate that I think Buddhist hell wardens could really get behind. For a while, this poor man was used as the Persian Shah's footstool. And then when Valerian of House Targaryen asked to pay a ransom to secure his freedom, Shapur took a page right out of the Hell of Great Lamentations. And depending on the source, the method of dispatchment was slightly different, but no less disturbing than the last. According to one of the contemporary sources, he was forcibly made to ingest molten gold. And some scholars hypothesize that perhaps he was fed the molten golden coins that were offered as a ransom payment. Another rumored method of execution was that Shapur had Valerian of House Targaryen flayed alive and skinned. And then the Persian king ordered for the emperor's hide to be preserved, stuffed, and put on display as a trophy. Like I said, the Hell Wardens would be proud because that is awful, okay? But regardless of what happened in 260 CE, Valerian went to the Great Colosseum in the sky, leaving his son Galenius in charge. They'd been jointly running Rome together for like a few years. It was like a family business, and Galenius wasn't a bad ruler. Not at all. He was fine, but Rome was losing its shit, and the empire was crumbling, and there wasn't a lot little Galeniwenny could do. What's a boy to do? Not a lot at this point. But there was something Odenathus could do. You could definitely call Odenathus and Zenobia a power couple. Obviously, we know that Zenobia is a baddie with a brain, but her husband was also very smart and handsome to boot. It's just so noteworthy when a man is smart and good looking, and it should definitely be pointed out over and over again by every historian as to cast a shadow on their other accomplishments for the rest of time, because handsomeness and brains are of equal importance and value, obviously. Sarcasm. I only add that extra little bit of spice because almost every single article that I read about Zenobia said something about her being super beautiful, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Stop equating her beauty to all of the other cool shit that she did. Anyways, let's continue. Odenathus, being the super smart and handsome man that he was, decided to take the misfortune of Rome and turn lemons into lemonade. He sent a bunch of camels to Shapur and wrote a cute little note asking Shapur if he wanted to be BFFs and like have an alliance or whatever. But alas, Shapur's top 8 was already full and he rejected ODD and said, "Who is this Odeanthus who dares write me a letter? Let him come before me prostrate on the ground with his hands bound behind his back." And ODD was very sad that his offer of friendship was spurned, and then he got over it very quickly and said, "Bet, I sure will come and say hello to your face with my 70,000 soldiers." And when the army was on its way back home from waging war with Rome, they were very much weighed down with the spoils of war, and ODD and Zenobia, with their 70,000 closest friends, kicked the ever-loving Papu out of the Persian army, which was just a typical date night for them. The surviving Persians ran away, the captured Roman soldiers were released, and the land was reclaimed in the name of Rome, air quotes, because not actually, it was not reclaimed in the name of Rome. They told Galenius Wennius that they did, but in reality, they were going to keep it for themselves. And on the flip side, Galenius Wennius kind of knew that that's what they were doing, and he couldn't really do anything about it. So he asked Odenathus if he would be like co-emperor of sorts, and obviously ODD said yes, and Palmyra was set off on a new course of empiredom. I don't know if that's a real word, but it is now, empiredom. Unfortunately for Odenathus, this happy time would be short-lived because he Icarused a little bit too close to the sun and had considerable family drama. And 3rd century family drama is not drama, it is dangerous. We can't be 100% sure that this is how everything went down, but the most likely series of events that led to Odaenathus's demise was when his nephew invited Odidi and his son to the banquet in 267, and they served up a cold dish of murder and poison. The nephew thought that by wiping out his uncle and the first heir that he would have a straight shot to the throne, but he was woefully unaware of the badassery of his wife, Zenobia. And when Zenobia heard of the death of her husband and stepson, she went scorched earth. Something I neglected to tell you at the beginning, dear one, is that Zenobia was no stranger to violence and murder. Along with conquering neighboring lands, one of Zenobia and Odaenathus's favorite date activities was hunting apex predators like lions and panthers and all manner of beasties on horseback with a spear. Okay? She did this on the reg. That woman loved to hunt, and she was ready to hunt down this nephew. She sent out her most trusted general, Zabdas, to neutralize the targets. And while he was out there doing some stabby, she declared her son King of Kings, and she declared herself Queen Regent. P.S. And by the way, her child was in fact a child at the time. So we all know who was really in charge. When I read the articles and watch the videos about the women who have ruled empires or fought in wars or conquered nations, the phrase short list of women who insert stereotypical male activity here. The short list of women who ruled, the short list of women who fought, the short list of women who did whatever manner of things. That phrase always pops up, and every time it does, I become enraged. Like I almost get as angry as when someone says she was as beautiful as she was smart, or it boils my blood. And Spicy TK comes out. And I want to scream from the mountaintops that women, in spite of the pressures and stereotypes and rules and regulations and laws and religions and shitty philosophers like Aristotle, have created that list of incredible rulers and conquerors and warrior queens so they can shut the front door right off. But let me hop off my soapbox really quick and tell you about this warrior queen, Zenobia, and the kind of empire that she created. In all the places that Rome was failing, Zenobia was excelling. From the moment that she took power, she began the expansion of Palmyra, and then she moved her eyes towards Egypt and elsewhere. She believed that she was the rightful ruler of Egypt, given her connection with the Ptolemaic line and Cleopatra, or what she thought was her connection to the Ptolemaic line and Cleopatra. And just 3 years after coming into power, Zenobia had conquered all of Egypt. She did it in 3 years. The woman did not have a 5-year plan. She had a 3-year plan, and she achieved her goals. And in this short span of time, she held control over the 2 largest cities in the world, Alexandria and Antioch. And she wasn't just willy-nilly grabbing up any land that she could. She was very strategic with it and purposefully conquered cities like in Syria to block trade from the north, and places like Bostra and Dedan to block from the south. She was all about cutting off trade routes to Rome and basically starving Rome out. And in the end, she had control of over 1/3 of the Roman Empire's food and virtually all trade coming in from the east. And to really shove it into Rome's face that she was indeed that bitch, she had coins minted with her face on them and used in her empire. And before that, she had coins made of her son with his face as the head of the coin, and then the current emperor as the back of the coin, which is like a big no-no. And then she just said, fuck it, like, it's me. I'm the face of this kingdom. So let me just make a coin all about me. And I'm very glad that she did. We should all do the equivalent of whatever it is of making our coin face. We should all be like that. Take a page out of Zenobia's playbook. But Her Excellency did not stop at owning the Roman Empire and expanding her own. Growing up in such a multicultural and diverse place as Palmyra gave Zenobia the unique skill of cultural understanding, diplomacy, and language. This woman could speak 4 languages: Sumerian, Greek, Egyptian, and some Latin, though she herself admitted that the latter was not her strongest tongue. But regardless, Girly Pop was a polyglot. And since she was keenly aware of cultural differences and how to work and live with many people of many cultures, her laws and policies were amazing. She had incredible centralized control, which was the thing that Rome was having a really tough time with, and she never forced assimilation like the Romans did. She always put one of her people at the head and then incorporated the elders or whatever people were in charge previously into the new system of government. At its height, her empire rivaled that of the Roman Empire, and to be honest with you, my delicious little donut, just between you and me, I think that she was doing much better. Controversial yet brave opinion. I think she was doing much better. Because she had better laws, she had better taxes, she had better infrastructure, she had better diplomatic activities, and she protected minority religions, and she was a patron of the arts. Not only was she a badass warrior queen, she was a queen of the people and the arts. Rather than erasing and destroying the local traditions of her newly acquired land, she promoted the uniqueness and invited scholars and artists and philosophers and musicians and any other artisan that you could think of to the capital of Palmyra, and it became one of the most exquisite and educated cities in the world at the time. It became a hub of learning and art and all good and wonderful things in the world. She knew that there was unity in diversity, and for 13 years, the kingdom turned empire flourished. But by 273, Rome could no longer take the shame of having so much taken from them by a woman. And they said that themselves in the Augustan history, or the history of the emperors. The author wrote, and I quote, "Now all shame is exhausted. For in the weakened state of the Roman Commonwealth, things came to such a pass that a foreigner, Zenobia by name, proceeded to cast about her shoulders the imperial mantle and ruled longer than could be endured from one of the female sex." Disgusting. Barf. Gag me with a spoon. A woman? How dare she? Jesus Christ. But if we know anything about Rome, it is that they hated women and they treated women like property and thought that they were inferior in all ways. And if you want more tea on that, you can go back and listen to the Hysteria episode where I absolutely go in on Aristotle. But I digress. The emperor at the time was a big bad military guy who decided it was high time to get Egypt back. He went with tens of thousands of men to march to the capital and defeat this new empress. And to his very teeny weensy little baby credit that will soon be gone, and you'll know why in a second, Aurelius knew— hello, yes, this is Editing TK here, and I'm popping in to say I accidentally called this Emperor Aurelius when his name is really Emperor Aurelian. There are far too many emperors in this episode, so just pretend that I say Aurelian every time I say Aurelius. Okay? Alright, thanks so much. Back to the episode, bye. Knew that this would be no walk in the park. He knew the kind of shitstorm that he would be walking into, and he said so in a letter that he wrote at the time, saying, quote, "The Roman people speak with contempt of the war which I am waging against a woman. They are ignorant both of the character and the power of Zenobia. It is impossible to enumerate her warlike preparations of stones, of arrows, and of every species of missile weapon. Every part of the wall is provided with 2 or 3 ballista, and artificial fires are thrown from her military engines. The fear of punishment has armed her with a desperate courage. Aurelius knew what was up, and he started the long march to defeat the queen. The Roman army had been collecting cities along the trek from Rome to Palmyra, threatening death and destruction and doling out punishment for noncompliance, like unaliving a city's entire dog population, which is a real thing that he actually ordered to have done in the city of Tyana, which has now earned him the nickname the Dog Killer. So add that to the list of emperor's names. The Dog Murderer. But despite being an awful, terrible human being, the Dog Murderer knew that even though he was collecting cities along the way, the only way to win this war would be to lay siege on the city and capture the queen. And to be honest, what happens next makes me very, very sad, because after a very long siege of the capital city of Palmyra, Queen Zenobia fled the capital with her children, either in an attempt to regroup in another city or simply flee. We don't know, and we probably never will. However, the Dog Killer caught word of this and captured her. And when her beloved city found out that their queen had been held hostage, they surrendered without a fight. And the Dog Killer did something unforgivable. He released his men into the city to destroy it. The once gorgeous and thriving capital was reduced to nothing more than ash and rubble in a matter of days. And what happens in the following days and weeks and months is up to a lot of debate by historians, and they're not exactly sure what happened next to Zenobia. There are some accounts that she was put into golden chains and dressed in a purple gown, decorated with all manner of precious gems and jewels. Others say that she was executed in the middle of the street and made an example of. Still, other historians believe that the Dog Killer was merciful, and she was married off to a wealthy senator, and her children were found appropriate marriages. And there are other sources that say she became the Dog Killer's lover, which I find highly unlikely. And finally, some people believe that she pulled a Cleopatra and took her own life rather than live out the rest of her days in captivity, which I am inclined to believe, given the fact that she sent this very, very spicy letter to the Dog Killer before her capture, saying, "From Zenobia, Queen of the East, to Aurelian Augustus. You demand my surrender as though you were not aware that Cleopatra preferred to die a queen rather than remain alive, however high her rank." Mic drop on the Dog Killer. But regardless of what happened, I hope that in the end she remained the master of her own fate and met an end that befit an empress. Even though the reign of Queen Zenobia ended in 273, her legacy has lived on for thousands of years, inspiring monarchs like Catherine the Great, who took inspiration from her military and strategic prowess, and Zenobia's patronage of the arts and education. And now you, dear one, are part of keeping that legacy alive. Well, dear one, we have come to our final thought, and you know me by now. We've spent 4 years together, okay? You know me by now that I will never leave you sad at the end of the episode, okay? So, our final thought today is very much girl power city. So, at the time when Queen Zenobia was doing her thing and just like causing general chaos and havoc to the Roman Empire, there was another gal on the other side of the Roman Empire that was also kiving? Who's saying kiving? That was also kicking the ever-loving crap out of the Roman Empire's bootay, okay? And her name is Victoria of Gaul, and she was a She was so cool. So very cool. So this gal, I don't know if we can call her queen. I don't know. I haven't done enough research on her yet, but we'll call her queen. Fuck it. I don't care. Victoria of Gaul was the leader of the Gauls. She was kicking butt, and Britain and Gaul and Spain all pledged themselves to her. And that was a huge part of the Roman Empire. And she was ruling between 231 and 271, which means that at a brief moment in time, almost a decade, okay? So not that brief, 2 women ruled 2/3 of the Roman Empire. You had Queen Victoria of Gaul, and then you had Queen Zenobia of Egypt and Palmyra and all of those other places. So that's amazing. That makes me feel good. I love to see the downfall of Rome. I do, though. I really do. So I hope that makes you as excited as it made me to learn that information. Anyways, take that to your next dinner party. Tell everybody. Make it real uncomfortable. Well, dear one, we have come... Nope, not to the final thought, to the end of our episode. I'm tired. It's early in the morning when I'm recording this. This is like 8 o'clock, so I still need more caffeine in my body. But thank you for joining me today. It was an excellent episode, and I hope that you had as much fun listening as I had telling you. And if you did, consider leaving a rating or review. I'm going to go make myself a cup of coffee and get a water. But before I do that, make sure that you check out all of the information linked in the show notes about the app, about the meetup, about the merch, about the leaving a rating / and review. Oh, P.S. and by the way, if you didn't know, Spotify is now allowing people, and by people I mean podcasters, to reply to the comments on their episodes. So talk to me over there. Let me know about what you thought about this particular episode. Is it as unhinged as I think it's going to be? Because I'm sleepy? I don't know. Who knows? Anyways, that's all for today. Thank you so much. Do something kind for yourself. Go outside, touch some grass. Summer is almost over. I know some people are getting back to school, so please take care of yourself. All those germs coming into your body. Take a multivitamin. Do whatever you need to do to get your immune system situated. Make sure that you are relaxing. Make sure that you are sleeping well. Make sure that you are drinking your water. I'm going to take a little sippy sip right now, so let's do it together. Delicious. And I guess I'll see you next week, okay? We'll be chatting with an author who wrote a book about mummies. But that book has 0 pictures of mummies. What does that even mean? You're going to find out next week. Okay, I love it so much. Talk to you later. Bye. Goodbye. Why am I like this? I looked this up earlier. I looked it up before I started. But I can't remember how to say this man's name. I can't remember. Baby, come back. Teddy, come back. I was just a fool to see I was wrong. And I just can't live without you. Teddy, come back. Whoa. Sorry, Ted. I didn't mean to disturb you. Smack me in the face for it, don't you? We're filming this quite early in the morning. It's so early in the morning. Baby, come back. You can blame it all on me. Yes. Testing, test to test. Testicle. Don't be a child. Testicle. Don't be a child. Stupid. So dumb. It's not funny. Be an adult. Please. Baby, come back. All right. Crack one of these bad boys. Papillon apparently means butterfly in French. It means butterfly in French. I did not know that information. My unpaid intern told me about it. Because she's Canadian. And one thing about Canadians, they do be speaking French. Let's go. Oh, Ted, what are you doing? Do you want to see Ted? Of course you do. What kind of question is that? Oh, Ted. Oh. I gotta, hold on. I gotta unattach you. Untouch you? What am I even talking about? Look at this cat. Look at her. Oh, you're caught. Oh, you're caught on the tripod. Okay, goodbye. Oh, look. There's Ted here. There's Ted here. It's so sweet. Look at her. She's so cute. Okay, bye. I love you. Goodbye. See you.